LeBron James has just won his fourth ring, won his fourth Finals MVP. He becomes the first player in NBA history to win Finals MVP on 3 different teams. On the line of something that they were hyping up Kawhi to do. And I didn't really hear a lot about LeBron and how he could accomplish this feat. It was really something talked about with Kawhi. But regardless, LeBron said, okay, I'll just do it first. And he did his thing. He adds his name to a list of many all-time greats that have helped the Lakers win titles. He is just incredible. For as many times as he's destroyed the hopes and dreams of my Celtics, at the end of the day, I'm grateful to be able to watch this one of the greatest athletes of all time and see what he's been able to do. And what he's been able to do this late into his career is impressive. At 35, turning 36, mind you, what he's been able to do. To be almost 36 years old and you're averaging almost 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists in the finals while shooting 59.1% from the field and 41.7% from 3 on 6 attempts. And you're like, yeah, this is what I'm doing at almost 36 years old. It's insane to me. You know, he's a player that has had the joy of being able to grow up watching, whether it be hating him because, you know, what he did to the Celtics, but at the same time, just appreciating his greatness. But today, I do want to talk about a myth about LeBron's career, in my opinion, and that's his idea that he needed super teams to win. And this might come off as a hot take, but when you really think about it, I don't think it's necessarily a bad take at all, or even a hot take. I don't think LeBron has ever had a super team when he won a title. Like, I don't think any of those title teams LeBron's been on have been super teams. You might be saying, oh, the Miami Heat, this and that. We'll talk about that. Trust me. I'm going to go through each of those title teams and explain why I just don't think that any of them were super teams at all. And the first thing I just want to talk about is I believe a super team is a team that can lose its best player and still compete at the level that they were. You know, I think if you took Kevin Durant off that Warriors team, there's still going to be a title contender. Maybe not the dominant force that's just easily they're going to win it every year if they stay healthy. But I still think there will be a serious title contender that wins 60-plus games a year without Kevin Durant. I also think somewhat you can say that they're really the only true super team ever, because I do think that other ideas of super teams or just teams that are really good that people like to call super teams for narratives, or just, you know, teams that have a bunch of all-stars but maybe don't have a superstar. I think those are things that people call super teams. I don't think they're super teams because I think, again, you need to have a player that can leave that team and you can still compete at that high level. I do think in 2011 that Heat team was a super team. I do think without LeBron they would still be competing for a title. Now, let's talk about the first year LeBron won a title, which is 2012 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't think they win the title. I don't think they even make it to the finals without LeBron. I think about it that way because when you think about it, going into that series against Boston in 2012, they were down 3-2. And in Game 6, LeBron had one of the greatest playoff performances I've ever seen. He absolutely destroyed the hopes and dreams of the Boston Celtics, and my heart as well, but that's besides the point. I don't think they make it to the finals without LeBron, because I don't think they make it past Boston, because honestly, without LeBron, would they even make it to Game 6? That's a real question I have. I know Boss missed time with injury in the playoffs that year as well, so that's another factor in as well. You know, Boss was injured, and that's why I just don't think they would make it to the finals that year. And I think the same thing could be said for 2013 as well. You know, Wade and Boss weren't necessarily good in those playoffs. Wade was averaging a 16 points per game in the playoffs. Boss was averaging this 12 points per game in the playoffs that year. But at the same time, LeBron was incredible. I think he doesn't get enough credit for just how good he was in those 2013 playoffs, because everyone remembers the Ray Allen side. That's the one thing that everyone remembers. But people also just don't understand that LeBron was playing out of his mind in that series. And mostly people just choose to ignore it because they like to force narratives. But people forget in those final 2 games, LeBron had 32 points in Game 6, had 37 points in Game 7, had one of the most underrated Game 7 performances of all time. I made a video a while back talking about that, but people don't talk about that. Again, I don't know if they even make the finals without LeBron, because if you remember, they went to 7 games against the Pacers in the conference finals, and when you look at the conference finals that year against the Pacers, LeBron was the only player that really was playing at a high level. He was averaging 29, 7, and 5. The next closest, Dwayne Wade was averaging just 15 points per game in that series, and Chris Bosh was averaging just 11 points per game in that series. Again, take LeBron off that team. Do they beat Indiana? No. Do I think Wade and Bosh's numbers look better if LeBron's not there because they get the ball more? Yeah, but I don't think they necessarily were good enough to beat a title contender at that point. We saw a decline between those two as LeBron kind of left, and we kind of saw a decline early on. Of course, I do think Chris Bosh would still be playing basketball today if he didn't have to deal with blood clots, but it doesn't really take away from the fact that he wasn't necessarily good in those 2013 playoffs, and neither was Wade. So again, I don't really think you can call that a super team, because I don't know if they even make it to the second round without LeBron. And then we look at 2016, and it may sound odd, but without LeBron, I don't even know if the Cavs would make the playoffs that year, because Kyrie Irving only played 53 games because of an injury he suffered in the 2015 finals. And, I don't know if Kevin Love's good enough to get to 44 wins, which was the most that they would need to get to in order to make it to the playoffs, because that was the 8th seed that year. The Pistons had 44 wins. They were the 8th seed. And again, I don't know if they even made the playoffs. And even if they did make the playoffs, I don't think they would even make it to the finals. I don't think they would beat Toronto. I don't think that they would beat a team like Boston or Atlanta without LeBron. So again, there is that. And you look at this year, I know Anthony Davis is probably the best teammate LeBron's ever played with as far as where he's at in his career. I know, all time speaking, as of right now, Wade is easily the best teammate he's ever had. But again, he only really got Wade at a high level for 1 year. And then you look at Anthony Davis, who's only like 27 years old. He's at his best. He's just entering his prime. So again, I think as far as where his prime aligns and where he's at in his career, I think Anthony Davis has been the best teammate LeBron has ever had in that sense. But really outside of that, and this is something that I tweeted about, which you can follow me on Twitter to talk about, in the finals this year, and you look at what they were doing outside of LeBron and Anthony Davis, who averaged 29.8 points and 25 points per game, respectively, in those 6 games. The next closest scorer was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope at his 12.8 points per game. That's the only other double-digit scorer that they had. I think people don't realize the importance of LeBron and AD when it comes down. Like, they don't make the playoffs. Like, they would be in the running for LaMelo Ball right now if it wasn't for LeBron and AD. But that's just common sense, of course. But without LeBron, when you really think about it, Anthony Davis would be in the worst situation if he got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron wasn't there than the situation he was trying to leave by demanding a trade out of New Orleans. So again, the situation would have been worse for Anthony Davis had he gotten traded and LeBron wasn't there, and he would have been better off staying in New Orleans instead of going to LA if LeBron wasn't there, of course, as well. And again, that's just common sense. So again, I don't really consider that a super team. So when you look at the teams LeBron has won titles with, and you notice that all of them wouldn't be the same level of team without him. None of them, I think, would be contenders without LeBron. And again, they won the title with LeBron, of course. And again, just the idea that he was even a part of super teams when he won titles, this is ridiculous to me. I'm not saying he wasn't ever a part of a super team. I think 2011, that is a super team. But other than that, I don't consider them a super team. I don't think you can say, oh, it's a super team because they added players via free agency and trades and things like that. You can't call that a super team, like, just because of that. It just doesn't make sense, when you look at how a super team is supposed to function. A super team is supposed to be so dominant that they can't lose to anyone. But at the same time, they're supposed to be so loaded as well, that to the point where you can lose the best player and still maintain the level of a title contender. And I can't necessarily say that about any of those teams. So again, why do people say LeBron won and he only won because of super teams? I don't know necessarily. I think it's just a narrative. I honestly do. I just think it's a narrative at this point. I just think, again, when we talk about them, it's just something because people don't like him. I do think that LeBron James haters are worse than LeBron James fans. I've been very adamant about this. I think MJ stands are a lot worse than LeBron James stands are. I just think LeBron James stands was louder about their support and the slander and things like that. But at the same time, I just think the hate towards LeBron is a lot worse than people think it is. I kind of do see where those LeBron fans are coming from, trying to defend him for every gold thing. To an extent, of course. I do think they definitely take it overboard. But at the end of the day, LeBron's an all-time great. He's one of the greatest players of all time. I think there's a legit argument that he is the greatest player of all time. And to say that he only won because he was a part of super teams is just stupid to me, considering the context of what a super team really should be and how those teams would function without LeBron. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much. It means so much to me, guys. You guys don't understand. But again, thank you. Like and subscribe if you're new. Feel free to leave feedback in the comments section below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.